1910 Portland. The Wilder mansion. Grand, yet undeniably mysterious. With its towering windows and intricate wooden porches, it shimmered under the late afternoon sun. The Mills family, Thomas, Sarah, and little 5-year-old Lily, stepped inside with a mix of excitement and curiosity. The smell of old wood, ancient dust, and a heavy, hidden feeling hung thick in the air. Thomas, a logical and optimistic engineer, was thrilled by the Victorian architecture. Sarah, a talented painter, scanned the artistic details and complex patterns of the mansion with sharp eyes. But Lily, clutching her old, faded rag doll, seemed to see things the others missed from the very first moment. "My friends are hiding here," Lily whispered in a soft, childish voice, pointing to the empty corners of the hall. "They don't want us here." At first, Thomas and Sarah thought it was just the natural imagination of a child. But when Lily started talking about Mr. Shadow, who watched her from the large hallway mirror and sometimes called her name, Sarah got a little worried. Thomas, however, just smiled and shook his head. "Kids' minds are full of stories," he would say, but this story was about to turn into a real nightmare. A nightmare clawing its way out from the walls and layers of paint. Less than a week after moving in, Sarah was organizing the basement when she found an old, dusty, wooden trunk. Inside, nestled among rotting fabrics, lay a wooden doll with piercing, glass eyes. The doll wore Victorian-era clothing, and its eyes looked like they had seen every secret in the world. A strange, unpleasant feeling, like a heavy, cold wave washed over Sarah from the doll. But Lily, seeing it, immediately grabbed it and shouted with joy, "This is Jacob! He's the friend who was waiting for me!" Unlike Sarah's dread, Lily's tone was full of affection. From that day on, the doll, Jacob, became Lily's inseparable friend. Wherever Lily was, Jacob was there too. From the very day Jacob was found, mysterious events began. At first, they were small and explainable. Closed doors, suddenly opening. The sound of footsteps echoing in empty hallways, or faint whispers heard when no one was paying attention. But Sarah was affected the most. She started creating strange, dark paintings she had never painted before. Vague images of shadows hiding in the walls, weeping faces, and eyes staring out from the darkness. The colors were darker, her brushstrokes more nervous. She didn't know why, but her hand seemed to move on its own. The paintings felt less like her art, and more like a reflection of hidden events happening right there in the house. Thomas was worried about Sarah, but she insisted, "These are just new artistic inspirations, that's all." Yet, deep in her eyes, a hidden fear was growing. One night, Thomas woke up to the sound of Sarah screaming. She was pointing in terror at the living room wall. "Thomas, it moved!" Hanging on the wall was one of Sarah's new paintings, an image of a dark hallway with shadows lurking in the corners. But now, the shadows seemed to have shifted. One specific shadow had moved closer to the center of the painting. Thomas stared at it in shock. "Impossible, Sarah. You're imagining things," he said. But even he couldn't deny that the image seemed to have taken on a life of its own. As time passed, the power of the doll, Jacob, and its influence over Lily grew stronger. Lily spent most of her time in her room, alone with Jacob. Her whispers to the doll became clearer. She spoke of new games with her friends, games that involved hide-and-seek in the walls and whispering in the dark. Thomas tried to separate Jacob from Lily, but she reacted with intense, hysterical crying. It was as if the doll had become a part of her. Sarah, too, was drowning in her paintings. She was now creating images that weren't just dark shadows, but clear human faces. Faces twisted in pain, with eyes full of terror and mouths wide open in a silent scream. These faces haunted Sarah day and night. She felt them watching her from inside the canvas, alive, trying to communicate. Thomas tried to hide the paintings, but Sarah defended them with a manic desperation. "These are a part of me. I can't stop my hand," she cried. One evening, Thomas returned home. The house had fallen into a deep silence. A silence different from before. The silence was heavy and terrifying. Lily and Sarah were making no sound at all. Thomas headed toward Lily's room. The door was open. Lily was asleep on her bed, the doll Jacob right beside her. But Lily's face was pale, her breathing weak. Beside the bed, on the wall, hung a new painting by Sarah. It was an image of a little girl, her face filled with fear, reaching out toward a dark shadow. But what was more terrifying, the painting had come alive. That shadow now looked like it was emerging from the canvas. Thomas rushed to Lily. He gathered her in his arms. Her body was cold. Suddenly, he heard Sarah's voice from downstairs, a voice filled with pure horror. Thomas laid Lily on the bed and sprinted downstairs. Sarah was standing in the hall, in front of a massive new painting. This was Sarah's largest and most horrific work to date. It was an image of a man with mad eyes and an evil smile, engulfed in flames. This man was the ghost of Oliver Wilder, the mansion's original owner. But this time, the painting wasn't just an image. It seemed the spirit of Oliver was separating from the canvas, stepping into the real world. The hall lights began to flicker. The sound of unintelligible whispers echoed through the entire house. Thomas now knew, with every fiber of his being, that what was happening in this house was no hallucination. Their nightmare had only just begun. The hall of the Wilder mansion was drowning in a halo of flickering lights and dancing shadows. Sarah's massive painting was no longer just an image on canvas. The spirit of Oliver Wilder, the mansion's former owner, was staring out from the colors with mad eyes. His evil smile screamed the darkness of years past. The sound of whispers grew heavier in the air, as if hundreds of souls were merging and moaning unintelligibly. Thomas looked at Sarah. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear and shock. She had lost the power of speech. "Sarah, what is going on here?" Thomas shouted, feeling the tremor in his voice. But Sarah could only point at the painting. Oliver's spirit, now clearer and more tangible, had stepped out of the canvas. His ghost, transparent and terrifying, was drifting toward Lily's room. Thomas suddenly remembered the doll. Jacob. That doll was the bridge. He sprinted toward Lily's room. The doll, Jacob, was lying next to Lily on the bed. Its glass eyes seemed to glow in the dim light of the room. Thomas grabbed the doll. A cold, insidious feeling, like a snake, bite shot through his hand. Jacob wasn't just a wooden doll. It was a vessel holding a dark force. At that very moment, the ghost of Oliver Wilder appeared in the doorway. His face was full of rage, furious that Thomas dared to touch the doll. The spirit lunged at Thomas. The room grew colder. The window panes rattled, and objects started flying across the room. Thomas barely held onto the doll and pulled himself back. Oliver's spirit couldn't hurt him directly, but his power to terrify and disrupt the physical world was horrifying. His target was the doll. His target was Lily. Thomas quickly scooped Lily up and ran out of the room, clutching the doll tight. He threw Lily and Sarah into the car and drove away from the mansion without a second thought. But even as they sped away, Thomas felt something following them. That feeling only faded when they reached the home of Dr. Collins, Thomas's old friend and the family physician. Dr. Collins was shocked by the state of Lily and Sarah. He examined Lily and said she was suffering from severe shock, but had no serious physical injuries. Sarah was in bad shape too. She kept whispering, Oliver wants to take us." Thomas told Dr. Collins the whole story. The doctor found it hard to believe at first, but Sarah's terrified face and Lily's condition made him think. Dr. Collins was a man of science, but in New Orleans and Portland, he had heard plenty of strange stories. He suggested they talk to Eleanor Vance, a local historian who researched old houses and city legends. Eleanor Vance, an old woman with white hair and piercing eyes, lived in a house filled with books and antiques. Thomas told her everything, from the doll, Jacob, to Sarah's paintings, and the appearance of Oliver Wilder's ghost. Eleanor listened carefully, taking notes now and then. When she heard the name Oliver Wilder, her eyes went wide. Oliver Wilder. Yes, he was a mad painter who lived in that very mansion. Years ago, he committed suicide in that house, but not a normal suicide. Eleanor explained that Oliver Wilder was a genius artist, but deeply insane. He sought artistic immortality. He believed he could trap human souls in his paintings and achieve eternal life through art. Using a kind of dark chemistry and special paint mixtures, he tried to build bridges between the world of the living and the dead. And the doll. Jacob, Eleanor whispered. Jacob was the name of his best friend and only model. How did Lily know his name? Thomas explained that Lily had called the doll Jacob from the very start. Eleanor continued. Oliver believed he could absorb people's spiritual energy through objects they owned, or through dolls made in their image. He made the Jacob doll to look exactly like his friend, and literally trapped Jacob's soul inside it. Eleanor's explanation hit like a shockwave. Lily had unwittingly opened a bridge for Oliver's spirit. Oliver had connected with Lily through the Jacob doll, and through her, controlled Sarah to paint images that acted as gateways for him and other spirits to enter the living world. What was his goal? Thomas asked. Eleanor replied with a serious look. Oliver wanted to become an immortal being. He wanted to rewrite reality through his art. He wanted to build a world where he was the absolute God, and souls were his tools. Eleanor added that Oliver wasn't alone. He had followers, a group known as the Brothers of Canvas and Brush. They all believed in Oliver's dark art and helped him with his experiments. But after Oliver's suicide, they all disappeared. No trace of them was ever found. Eleanor said they might have vanished mysteriously like Oliver, or been pulled into another world. Thomas suddenly remembered Lily's drawings. The shadows Lily called her friends. Were those paintings holding other souls too? Souls Oliver had trapped? Eleanor confirmed it. Yes, Oliver had many paintings. He believed every painting was a prison for a soul. He wanted to build an eternal gallery of spirits. Now, Thomas realized their battle wasn't just against one ghost. It was against a collection of spirits, and an artistic madness that wanted to swallow reality whole. The only way to stop Oliver was to destroy all his artwork. All those paintings trapping the souls, and of course, the Jacob doll. But this was incredibly dangerous. Oliver protected his art fiercely, and his power lay within those very pieces. Thomas had to go back to the Wilder mansion, back to the house he had fled. He had to face Oliver's spirit. This time, not to run, but to fight. A battle that would determine the fate of Lily, Sarah, and perhaps reality itself. Eleanor gave Thomas a small wooden object, an old talisman she said could protect against spirits, but only for a short time. Be careful, Thomas. Oliver is more than a simple ghost. He is a creator, and a creator protects his works, with a mind full of terror and a steely resolve. Thomas headed toward the Wilder mansion. He knew he was stepping into a battlefield where he had no weapon but courage and hope. Under the moonlight, the Wilder mansion looked not only grand, but more terrifying than ever. Shadows of ancient trees danced upon its walls, and the towering windows stared down at Thomas like empty, hollow eyes. Thomas had returned alone. He had left Lily and Sarah at Dr. Collins' house, where it was safer. The wooden talisman from Eleanor Vance felt cold and heavy in his hand. He stepped into the mansion, this time not with caution, but with the resolve of a warrior. The air inside was cold and damp. Every step Thomas took created a loud, fearful sound in the silence of the house. The whispers had started again. Clearer and closer this time. It was as if the spirits hiding in the walls sensed Thomas's presence. Thomas lit his lantern. The light fell upon Sarah's paintings that now covered the entire house, from the hall to the corridors and the various rooms. Each painting was a face full of pain, an eye staring out from the darkness. These were no longer paintings. They were prisons for souls.
It's all about humanity.